I'm live. I just I just did some live testing in production. What can go wrong? Hello everyone. How you all going today? I hope you're all, for those taking part in the call for code right now, I hope you're all doing amazing. Although I did just come from the venue, so I have talked to a few of you already, and there's already some amazing solutions underway. Anyway, so amazing to be here, and so glad to see so many people came out today. Really excited to see the solutions that come out in day two or tomorrow or wherever you're joining in from, because this is a multi-region event. So wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever it's going to be. See, so this is something I've often pondered is how do you say good day in space? Well, I mean, that's kind of how you do it, but you know what I mean? There's no reference to time usually. Anyway, total tangent. Let's get underway because I have a whole bunch of fun stuff planned. So before we get underway, I'm going to switch into my Prezzo mode. There we go. Hopefully you can all see that really well. Just having a look at the Twitch now. You can. Amazing. Well, I hope you can. There's a bit of a delay between me and the Twitch. It's a bit yeah, it's a whole time thing. Anyway, if you do have any questions, please drop it in the chat. I won't see it straight away because I'm switching between a couple screens and I got a whole bunch of desktops set up, but I will get to them. And plus, I'll be in the venue straight after this. So if you have got any questions, come hit me up and I will be more than happy to answer them, geek out, and learn a bit about what you're doing and what you need help with, etc. And today, so this session, I'm going to be looking at wait, I have slides for this, so I'm not going to do any spoilers. So let's get underway. Let me switch my screen over. So before we do begin, I'd like to begin by acknowledging and paying my respects to the traditional owners on the lands on which we meet today, and acknowledgements in particular to the Wajunga people, who are the traditional owners here in Narromine, where I'm broadcasting from today. And for those that don't know, Narromine is a little town just outside of Dubbo in country New South Wales. I'd also like to pay my respects and acknowledgement to Indigenous elders past, present, and emerging. So again, thank you very much for joining me today for this session. Before we get started, and for those that don't know, I do have a whole bunch of developer jokes. So there is a few in this deck. Let's see if you can see them. This is a very obvious one, but I do like to open with them because, well, they're just a bit of fun. Also, I do have a lot of them, but anyway, I may have already covered that. But this is a brand new joke, which is, why did the vulnerability get tired? Because of ransomware. Get it? Because it's ransomware. Anyway, I can feel the face palms now. I always love the face palms are always the best. Anyway, I do have a whole bunch of those. That was the disclaimer at the start of the talk with that little asterisk. So you've all been warned. Anyway, for those that don't know me, hello, I am DeveloperSteve. I'm the senior developer advocate for a company called Sneak, which we do a SaaS security scanning product. But we're going to use that today as part of the deployment of one of the code kits. And today, sorry, just some further background before I get ahead of myself. See, I'm so excited to share all this stuff with you, and I've got this deck lined up, and I keep jumping ahead of myself. Anyway, so for those who don't know me, yeah, hello, I am DeveloperSteve. Fun fact, that is actually part of my legal name. So I got married a few years ago. That's the photo up on the right. And we combined our last names, so Cooper plus Houchin became Kuchin. And while I was getting my name legally changed, because I've been doing developer advocacy for so many years and everyone just started calling me DeveloperSteve, I actually got it as my middle name. Fun fact, I found out I could actually get that as my middle name. So there we go. No, I have been a developer advocate for a while now. So just amazing to be able to work with and help build out so many amazing communities through the Asia Pacific region. Well, everywhere really, but in particular the Asia Pacific region. But prior to that, like I've been coding since the age of 8, back in the days of QBasic, for those that remember it, and literally been tinkering with or geeking out with code for many, many years. This one time, I even put a whole bunch of IoT stuff on my coffee table, but that's a talk for another day. I do like IoT stuff. I like all code, really. Anyway, so today we're going to be looking at one of the software solution starter kits from the Call for Code 2021 kits that are available this year. I did actually help make this earlier in the year, or was one of the contributors to this particular code kit. So yeah, I was part of the crew that helped make it, which is great because I can tell you all about the design thinking sessions we had to build out this kit. Code is readily available on the GitHub. So if you haven't yet found that, is github.com/call for code, as you can see on the screen. Or there's some links inside the venue and some of the sign up emails as well, letting you know where they all are. This is one of a few code kits, so please don't think you have to use this particular one. But I'll go through some of the sort of nuances to it. Well, right now, not even today. Well, it is kind of today. Anyway, so this particular code kit was sort of talking to or looking at the solution of around hunger, or kind of around food production to some extent, because it's geared around building for a collective of small scale farming setups, essentially. So if you think sort of a village scenario where there's all these little farms, well, farms of all different size, sort of producing stuff as a collective, that's what this code kit is basically designed for. So it's a combination of bringing information to different established farms or different farm setups in a number of different ways, keeping in mind that in some locations of the world, there may not be ready access to A, technology, and B, connectivity. So if you think mobile phones and all sort of 5G, 4G, Wi-Fi, all that sort of stuff, this is basically building a solution which is A, easy to deploy, and B, easy to give access to and get information out. Because at the end of the day, this code kit was sort of built around the idea of bringing in a small amount of information and then giving back small amounts of information. Could be anything from weather-related updates to yield expectations or different crop types based on different season, but is basically geared around using a mobile device, using whatever technology is at hand to be able to interact back with that central computing point. We're going to look through how that works a little bit more today. The thing to remember, and why I think Node-RED was really good for this solution, is it's extremely adaptable. So different regions are going to have different resources available, so you can adapt it to, be it SMS, be it via a web page, which Node-RED supports. You can actually build out some really cool interactive dashboards. You can also build member management modules around it. But we'll get into that when I'm going to attempt some live code. No, it should be fine. I like to live dangerously. I actually have 2 demos for you. But even in some scenarios, you're going to also have IoT capabilities or drone capabilities, or this emerging tech that is going to be able to add extra value into this platform, be it crop scanning, be it sensors in soil. You can adapt this a whole bunch of different ways, but we'll look at that as we get into it a little bit further. So you can actually, there is no IoT solution built out with this one, but you can really easily and really quickly get something connected in just by using a broker. And also, just again, happy to have that chat if you do want to do some IoT stuff after this. I do love IoT things. I even have one of the boards, me and Michelle Howie, the Telstra Dev Evangelist, talked about last year. This is the NB1500, the MKR device, which is, I still really like these. These connect in through Cat M1. Anyway, that's a whole other talk. I think that was actually played earlier in the day. So again, hit me up after this. More than happy to chat. The thing I did want to talk about today, and Ali mentioned it as part of the opening this morning, is, or part of this, which is just when you're designing your overall solution, the important thing here, one of the important factors to give some consideration to, particularly building around scale, because you're building for 10 users now, but building for, well, hopefully, ideally, you build for 10 users now, and then 10,000, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of users down the track. So the MVP is something to just prove out an idea, and that's what you're building for this hackathon. But if you do go, like, sort of make it into the finals, or even beyond this hackathon, even if you don't make it into finals, you're building that solution out now to scale. That one is super critical. And of course, security is super duper important because, well, security. You basically need to make sure as you do that scale, you need to build a nice secure platform to keep everyone safe, not only just your infrastructure, but also the users using the infrastructure, the information in it. So many reasons. particularly when you're thinking about food security, like food platform security. And I'm going to talk about security a bit because I think it's super, super important, particularly on that side of things, because yeah, you need to keep these platforms safe, especially like taking or when you're going through that whole scale side of things. And there's going to be people dependent on the platform, the solutions that you're building just to get fed. And we've seen this in the news lately too, is like there's some big companies that have, well, this was actually in the local news very, very, very recently, where a company doing food production or agri-tech has basically had to now reevaluate their platform security. And as devs, it's not something we generally give much consideration to, which is like something we totally need to start reevaluating. And you might have heard the term sort of shift left, which is starting to move the whole DevSecOps side of things or the security side of things away from or being focused down the ops end of the scale down to the actual code front, because you think even libraries and dependencies that you pull into your code, so like the code on the screen, for example, is like that's using a library to help speed up app production, which I totally love doing. I have done it so many times. But doing the due diligence to look underneath that code to find out what you're actually installing. And it could also be a combination of two different dependencies, the server infrastructure that that particular library or that code is running on. Like there's any number of factors that could be opening up doors inside your infrastructure, which, well, it's going to let in some bad stuff. Literally just like that meme there. Like you can write the most cleanest, nicest code using these libraries, which also need these dependencies, but just make sure you know what you're letting in, because, well, it's going to cost you a whole bunch of money if someone starts mining Doge on your platform, which they might do. We have seen that, and I have an example of it. Well, not particularly Doge, but just in general. Yeah, you're going to be the one getting that bill down the track when something you don't want in your platform starts using resources and consuming a whole bunch of, well, processing. Plus, also your users, like you're spending all this time to build a platform to, help bring food production to scale, or a system to do food production to scale. You need to make sure you're looking after and protecting the users and the information they're putting in, because, well, we really love them. That's why we're building this platform to help them. So I can't recommend it enough. Um, and if you think about it, so on the left-hand side, you can see that iceberg, like literally your code is the top of that iceberg. Underneath that, like underneath the surface, is your open source code, like is the code that you're building stuff on open source libraries, on open source dependencies. Um, and if you think about, and I've done this all the times that you've even copy pasted something from Stack Overflow. I don't know how many times I've done that over the years. But you've copy pasted this code to get around a problem, and you've pasted in your code. That in turn also pulls in dependencies. Like you need to know what those libraries and dependencies you're pulling in, what they're actually doing, not even beyond the bits of code that you're using or the app that you're building out, but also the stuff that they're also opening up. And it could be a combination of things. But we're going to take a look at that a little bit more. And yeah, this is the security side of thing I really wanted to sort of emphasize is you're building your code to help save, like help build out food production, and you're looking for that whole scale piece. Like you're building on top of libraries and dependencies that you may not necessarily know what is being let in. And if you think about some of the ecosystems these days, like npm or composer on php, like there's a whole raft of libraries now that sometimes even split off into smaller libraries as a lot of these communities grow out. And a lot of the time, or some of the time, some of the vulnerabilities we're seeing surface, they're raised within a lot of these open source projects, but not necessarily addressed or fixed straight away, because it takes time to, and I'm going to add a side note here, but it takes time to actually address the actual vulnerability that has been surfaced, or the code that's basically opened a door into your stack. Now, the side note I wanted to say was these are amazing communities, but a lot of them are run by volunteers. They're run by people working on code in their spare time. So please always, and I know you all do because you're all amazing, contribute back where you can. So if you can add extra value to even testing, vulnerability patching, totally for that. And you should do more of it. Even just verifying READMEs and sort of giving back to the communities, particularly for the stuff that you're using in your stack. Totally recommend it. It is a great way to get involved and, well, just contribute back to the stuff you're already using anyway. And that's something we've seen like year on year is this emerging, like the overall open source ecosystem is growing. Like that's, no secret because we're all using it to build stuff out, build out some amazing things. But as we do so, it also opens up the possibility to some vulnerabilities get in. And I have an example of that coming up in a moment. But yeah, we totally need to be contributing back to make sure we keep these vulnerabilities down, but also just being aware to what there is around. And remember, you're using a lot of these and some of the code we're going to be looking at today to actually build out a solution that helps people, which I always love. Like one of the reasons why I'm in tech is to help change the world. Like that's what Call for Code's about. So I wanted to talk a bit about particularly open source supply chain security because again, like you're building out a solution to help people. So we want to make sure we keep them safe, we keep your code safe, we keep your infrastructure safe because that's what it's about, right? But yeah, in 2018, we saw this one particular attack in the NPM ecosystem using a dependency that came in, no, sorry, not a dependency, a library that came in through event stream. And that in turn installed some dependencies which were not so safe. But basically, this was downloaded millions of times a week and without people even knowing. So the actual supply chain, and this isn't even writing new code, this is just an existing library that all of a sudden had a dependency for a vulnerability that then started doing some bad stuff inside stacks. If you think of this at scale, though, like once you open that door, there's the opportunity for all sorts of things to be installed and hidden away inside a Kubernetes stack, inside Docker, inside your infrastructure. And while you may be able to identify and fix this just by looking through logs and some of the memory, things running in memory, which I've tried to do before. I've been there. Had to clean up some of this stuff before. Once that door's open, anything can be let in. And then once you clean up the door being open, that doesn't mean it's gone away. So at the code front, we need to be sort of mindful of what's being let in. But this particular attack didn't stop there. But wait, there's more. So this actually then resurfaced the same attack last year, and we saw the Electron native notify library which surfaced, which then let in, well, did exactly the same thing again, except this was actually, and this is the crypto part. Also, I do like that ping. This is the Electron native notify vulnerability, which basically started stealing stuff from people's cryptocurrency wallet, in particular the Komodo Agma wallet. Which, well, it's also bad, but obviously doesn't necessarily start using a lot of resources on server. We have seen instances of that in the past where that has been happening. And again, you don't want that running on something that you're building out to try and help people because I want to keep them safe. So yeah, one of the things we have, and it's totally recommended that you do, no matter what you're building out, even if it's not using these code kits, like you need to do some due diligence on what you're using as part of your solution or what you're using as part of your stack. Because at the end of the day, you're building for those 10 users now, but then those 10,000, 100,000 users later, you want to make sure you're building right from the start, right from that MVP stage. You're using things that what is being used, and you're building out a stack which is nice and secure. Anyway, I know you're all going to do that. So I'm about to do two demos. One I've only partially done, which is this one. So I've already cloned this repo down into my local environment. But I want to demonstrate how easy it is to get a vulnerability in by using one of our other demos first. Anyway, enough of that. Let's do code things. And I do like a Dwight email. So, not Dwight email, a Dwight meme. Anyway, so let's do the vulnerability first, and then we'll switch over and do some node redness. Hopefully, before we do that, I might just switch back to the live stream. Yes, I can see myself on the live stream, slightly delayed. It's still, it's a little bit meta, I guess. No, not meta. Entanglement. It's a bit like quantum entanglement because I'm doing it after. No, anyway, I'm not going to get caught up in that now. So this first one, I'm just going to demonstrate what I mean by vulnerabilities inside some libraries. So this is using, oh, I've lost my mouse. No, that's not a vulnerability. Anyway, this is using one of our demo apps. This is a node-based demo app. The thing that I always find amazing with these is, yes, you might see there on GitHub that it does have 57 vulnerabilities. This is intentional. Now, I don't recommend you take this into production. This is purely for demonstration and not production use only. So this is literally just to demonstrate some of the things you potentially will get if you're not careful about what you're using and doing the due diligence, etc. So this is a to-do app. This is basically there, as you can see there. So this library in particular that has a vulnerability in it is using the marked package from npm. So, and I've got, it's 0.3.5, and as you can see on the vulnerability database, on the sneak side, it's anything below 0.3, 0.6 is, well, bad and shouldn't be used. So I'm using the thing you shouldn't be doing. So this particular package does Markdown, pretty easy. You can do a basic input like so, and it's Markdown, so you can do, this is our test, you can do basic Markdown in it, it's pretty easy. Now inside the code itself, so using the marked library, as you can see there inside the app, you can see here it's in the options, it's got a sanitize true flag that you can put in there, which makes sense. A lot of the times libraries have sanitization options, which I recommend exploring and looking into beyond doing the due diligence on what it is you're using. But just explore those options to make sure you are sanitizing user input, because you need to sanitize user input. It's not that we don't trust them, we want to keep them safe. Anyway, so what are some ways you reckon I could get around this from a user input side of things? So remember, it's using Markdown, and you can do links, something similar to that, which is just a Markdown link. And obviously that'll link off to the Sneak website. I won't click it now, but you get the idea. So one of the ways, like I've done pen testing before, and one of the ways I've been able to get around something like this is by injecting some JavaScript into the user input. But, well, the library with that sanitized true flag, it's got some ways to weed that out. And usually it's just using like a regex or a basic match to try and match particular character sets or input sets going into the actual library. It'll run a basic check on and strip out the things you don't want in there. One of the more common ways to do a cross-site scripting attack is something like that, where you're going to HTML encode some of the character sets, because maybe sometimes it's not going to be able to pick that up. Except this one kind of does pick that up. However, you can also add like language executable commands inside as part of that input as well. So doing something like this, which is literally putting in this, which is a JavaScript this, can potentially get around it. So this is my other pun, because this box says this box is loading, and it actually is, because I just got around the library sanitization to do that. So anyway, be mindful of this, because that's bad. All right, let's go to Node-RED. I wanted to share that with you just to show how easy it is for that stuff to get into your stack, because please don't do that. Anyway, so we're going to be using this particular repo, which is the Call for Code Solution Starter Kit for Hunger. Everything you kind of need to get started in this kit is available in here, except Node-RED. So there's a way to deploy this to cloud, which has some really comprehensive instructions here. Although I do have a few things to highlight, but we'll get it to the end of the talk for that one. But yeah, all the instructions here to get all that deployed, and it deploys on the cloud side of things, deploys to the IBM free tier pretty easily. So it's pretty easy to get up and running with that. I'll highlight some stuff towards the end of the talk, which you need to keep in mind as well, because there's a couple of little caveats, but it is covered inside that. But I wanted to highlight it because it's easy to overlook it. So anyway, I've lost my mouse again. It's a feature, not a bug. So I've already got this installed in my pulled down into my local. Actually, I have this repo installed, and then I've also well, not installed, but git cloned, and then I've also git cloned the latest version of Node-RED. Whoops, would help if I should have hit tab. There we go there. So I've already done, in the interest of time, I've already done npm install, so that's all good there. The next thing I'm going to do once I've git cloned the solution starter kit for Hunger and then into a folder, and also Node-RED, and I've literally just grabbed the latest version of Node-RED code, is I'm going to use Sneak at the command line. I am on a Mac. You can brew install this. There's other ways to install it, but full easy ways to get up and running on the website. And then for this, I'm just using the Sneak free tier, but I can scan at the command line like so. And then it goes away and thinks about it. It's sending off the package, and we just found vulnerabilities. So now I've been talking to the folks at Node-RED for this because we work pretty closely with a whole bunch of open source communities to make sure, well, if we identify things like this, that we work with them to help them fix it where we can, or be able to put out a patch, a temporary patch until they can get an upgrade out or get a version out. So some of these they are aware with, but you can see there's a couple of nasty bugs showing up. And we can look into these pretty easily. If I just copy that out, I can look into some more of these bugs, like these vulnerabilities more if I wanted to. Can actually see when they were first disclosed, when they've been patched, all the GitHub PRs for them, or the Git repo PRs for them, the issues that were raised behind it, and just some of the fixes that are in place. I can also run Sneak Wizard, which will automatically upgrade and patch where it can some of the things inside that it's already identified. Where it's not able to apply anything because of version compatibility releases, you can see there it's actually going to give me the option to ignore it, skip it separately. I'm just going to skip for this one, these ones, but it can actually notify me when there is an upgrade or a fix or a patch available for that as well. I'm only going to skip them for now because I want this to work. And I haven't tested the deployed patches as yet. Oh, wait, no, I did yesterday. They do actually work, so I could have actually done, no, we'll just save that there. And it's going to create a file. And then I can do npm start. There we go, which should then launch. Looking good. And then here's one I prepared earlier, which should hopefully, yes, it's going to load, which will give you something like this, which is literally a Node-RED blank slate. So many possibilities. So the first thing I'm going to do inside the kit, so inside that kit that we cloned down earlier is a zero hunger node-red flows.json file. Now this has got all the configuration stuff you need to basically get started. You do, however, need to make sure you've got 5 plugins, and this is covered inside that lab README file. There's 5 things you need to install first. So you need to install 5 different nodes. Actually, I already have them installed, literally just to speed things up. Let me open that up for a second. So under hamburger menu top right, manage palette, you can see here I've already got the nodes installed which are needed for this JSON to be installed. Now install these nodes first, super important. Install these nodes first and then import the JSON. Otherwise it's going to give you a whole bunch of errors, and yeah, I haven't got time for that. So make sure you install these first. Things like the Twilio, where's that list gone? Open weather map, Node-RED dashboard, Node-RED contrib TWC weather. That's the weather company weather node. Node-RED node Twilio. Oh, try saying that 3 times fast. And UI table. And literally these are nodes which are needed for that particular JSON we're about to install. Or not install, but import. So if I import that now, just go hamburger menu, import, and then I can either select the file or I can copy paste the JSON, which is pretty much what I just did. Oh, see, I still got some. Now this didn't work in testing, but I mean, yeah, that happens sometimes. Anyway, it will still import. I actually don't know why I did that, but anyway, it's still going to import. It's just going to be a bit unhappy. Oh, Cloud. Yeah. Okay. So it turns out there's another node which needs to be installed, which isn't available on that list. I swear that worked in testing. Anyway, that happens. This is fine. So I can step through what some of these do first. To keep things nice and easy, things are kind of split up into three different dashboard types. So as you can see there, there's the data flow, which basically does all your data interface stuff. These little nodes here, and if you haven't used Node-RED before, it's really easy. It's literally a no-code, low-code platform. So as you can see here, these are like little link nodes, and you can drag these around and then link them up to other nodes and create flows of functionality, which is really cool, really easily, really quickly. So this node here links in from form input, which is available on the interfaces tab. No, sorry, the dashboard tab. So if you click that, it'll take you through and actually point you to the flow that it's actually going to be using. And then, so the four different sections here all link to data cleansing, input, gathering, etc., etc. Some of these you will need different keys for, like Open Weather Map, you need a key for as well, which you can see there. It's a little bit unhappy that I haven't inputted, but this is all covered inside that lab README as well. It tells you how to set that up and how to configure things. On the interfaces side, so this is more about the user interface. There's a few different ways to do this, and this is where you could extend it and have connections into a broker. There's a whole bunch of MQTT connection stuff that you can do through to What's an IoT or any other node broker platform to be able to get sensor information from literally in the field or some sort of a drone device or whatever it is, you can interact with the broker and get messages through. There's actually a talk me and Michelle did, which was played earlier, last year on environmental monitoring with the MKR NB1500, one of these. You could do it with an ESP32 or any IoT board, really, as long as it can talk back to that broker, that server broker endpoint. You'd be able to get information in there and store it or do something with it. Literally, you could get, that's what this repo does. Is it's gathering sensor information, and then the user can request via SMS, can request the latest update, weather update or whatever. You could also flip that and send an alert to the user if it drops below a particular temperature, whether humidity goes above a certain amount, like whatever it is you're gathering from that IoT device, you could gather information and send it back to the user, allow the user to interact with it, literally just by using flows like this. So on the integration side, there's two options already loaded in here. There's an SMS webhook from Telstra Dev. So basically, user messages in, it sends to the Telstra server, and then it hits the webhook that you've registered with the Telstra Dev API. Or you can send a message out as long as you've got the user's mobile number. You can send a message back, send a message out saying, "Hey, alert happens." And same type of thing with Twilio. So Twilio has a native Node-RED node. The Telstra one, I actually built this with Michelle Howie last year, and you can see here you can set up all your details. You set up a free account on Telstra Dev, and you can input your API key, your API secret, and then the flow itself will automatically transport out. Once you send a message to that link on the end of that flow, it'll automatically send that message out to the mobile number that you specify. Pretty easy stuff. See, we've already done a whole bunch of the stuff for you to get you up and running. It was a message from Developer Alley. Yeah, like I said, you can build more interface into this if you wanted to build some more stuff out. And that's the thing. One of the things I like about Node-RED is it's very extendable. On the palette side, there's a whole bunch of libraries. There's some really cool modules that you can add in. There's a really solid community behind the Node-RED platform, so it's pretty easy to get up and running with pretty much any integration that you want. I would recommend checking out some of the other flows that are available once you work out what your idea is and how you can extend it. That's basically about it on the Node-RED side of things. Oh, there is a dashboard as well. I haven't deployed this, so you got to hit deploy up there. All these little dots on the top right-hand side of each node just mean that I've imported but haven't deployed yet. I wouldn't do that because I think some of these are a little bit unhappy just because I haven't got the right modules and things installed, all the right versions of modules or configured the right way. Yeah, there we go. There's a couple there. Yeah, and it just broke the linkage with that one. But yeah, it does basically build a nice little dashboard, sample dashboard, with a map depending on the location that you set up way back in the early steps. Again, in full instructions for this are available on that solution starter kit page. A whole bunch of amazing screenshots, including deploying, like getting Node-RED up and running in a public-facing URL. So that was basically, and it almost worked. It was like 89% it worked. Anyway, I'm going to switch back to the presentation now. If anyone has any questions on that side of things, whoops, go back. There we go. Again, I'm going to be around venue after this. I'm around all this weekend, so please just reach out. And I'm in the Call for Code Slack. So if you wanted to reach out, wanted to geek out, if you want to talk IoT, security, scale, like, please let me know. Just going to go through a few more slides because I'm going to talk a little bit about the scale and security side of things on this one. So please, as we saw in that first demo, please make sure you know what you're building on, whether you're using that code kit or not. Please make sure you know libraries using, dependencies using, just to keep everything nice and safe. On the scale side of things, and of course, everything's about Docker and Kubernetes these days, containerization. And that's something we've seen year on year is just the explosion of and use of containerization, which makes sense if you're building for scale because you can build out containerized servers, you can build out containerized infrastructure very quickly, very easily, spanning clouds, building on-prem, building at edge, which makes sense for IoT and especially farming stuff. Totally include some thoughts around that in your roadmap as well. But I have a slide for that coming up. Anyway, yeah, year on year we see so many. So Docker, for example, last year 242 billion containerized downloads, which is crazy, which makes up the other parts of our iceberg that we were looking at earlier. And on the GitHub or even on the code deployment side of things, you can easily, in your Snyk free tier, hook up code scanning at the repo, and then also infrastructure and base containerized image scanning as well. And this isn't just the initial one-off scan like I just did. This is the ongoing watching scanning of your upgraded containers, and also keeping an eye on things like licenses and drift dependency as well, which is super important when you're going to scale. Again, you're building for those 10 users now, those 10,000, 100,000 users later, your infrastructure scales with that. So keeping all that nice and secure and in check while you are scaling, super important as part of your scale strategy. And containers are one of the other places we see the most vulnerability starting to appear. Like even the base images which are coming off Docker Hub, for example, we're seeing so many of them now. Or as I like to think of this, with great containerization comes great responsibility. Hey, new meme. The other side of that too is infrastructure as code. Totally worth giving some thoughts around that, around security, the scale side of things. Infrastructure as code in particular is really cool to scale as your team scales out. Because ideally, like, that's going to happen as you bring in more users. You're going to need more devs, you're going to need infrastructure to support them, and you're still going to need to keep users safe and secure. So some things to remember just as I wrap up. One thing I really wanted to highlight, because I've been caught in this one, if you are deploying to the IBM cloud, when you're setting up, and this is noted in that document, please make sure you set the memory to at least 256 meg. It's just easier because most of the modules will work nicer in that one. By default, it's going to set to 64. Just move that slider across a little bit because you'll thank me later. Make sure you install all those modules because yeah, you just saw what happens if it doesn't. You can reroute some of those nodes if you needed to as well. But yeah, make sure you install those modules first because that one's super important. And then as part of your solution, make sure you integrate security from the start. I can't get that one, stress that one enough. We integrate with pretty much everything. There's even a VS Code plugin, all free to use. free tier to use it in. So please make sure you know what you're installing, and ideally build out a roadmap. Like there's things that you're going to want to do this weekend. You can include those. You don't have to build them this weekend, but you can build them as part of your ongoing roadmap. So you talk to the MVP now. We have this idea. This solves the solution of blah. Ongoingly though, like this is where we want to take it as we build out that user base, because I mean this is super important and something I'm pretty sure most judges are going to be looking for. They're looking for that scalability, they're looking for that roadmap, they're looking for that idea, but with a combination of all three. So make sure you're included in that. Remember to include security. So just some takeaways. Build your solution to scale. I mean, totally obvious because I mean you're going to build an amazing app. You want all the people to use it. Make sure you build with the idea of many, many, many users in mind, but small scale now. Totally going to be scanning your code now because that's super important. And also going to be scanning your containers if you're using containerization, because please do that just to keep everyone safe. Upcoming event, I just wanted to tell you about if you are interested in security things, or even if you're not, you just want to learn something about them. We have DevSecCon 24 coming up on the 23rd and 24th of June. It is region friendly. It will be in the Oz Pacific time, so check that out. Tickets are free. Actually, if you sign up, you can vote on some amazing tech inclusivity charities that we can donate some money to. So yeah. And just finally, please use your developer superpowers for good. And as always, be excellent to each other. Thank you very much.